Okay, so Netflix have a new documentary, right? It is called The Mysteries of the Terracotta Warriors. Yo, I don't even think you understand, right? As a kid, I remember hearing about these things and I was fascinated, right? You would see these pictures of these warriors, right? But made of like as a kid, I'm just like, oh, it's stone, right? Terracotta is a type of stone, right? And you'd see these things and like stone or clay, you know what I mean? But yeah, you would see these things and they were fascinating, right? Thinking, wait, so these were just in a tomb? That's why they were built? Because, I was big into Egyptology, right? The sphinxes, the pyramids, just all of that stuff, hieroglyphics. So this was on a similar scale to me, right? And it was just incredible. Incredible. So, like watching things about this and the Great Wall of China, that's just always been something I try and check. So when I saw that this documentary was hitting Netflix, I'm like, yo, I've got to check it out. Now, IMBD is trash. There is no information other than it's directed by James Tovell. So I had to take kind of pictures of the credits, right? It's produced by Nicholas Kurtzes, executive produced by Richard Bradley. Oh, I'm gonna have to try and do this right. So cinematography is Zhang Yi, right? Simon Barker, Brett Urban, Ash Jenkins, Nick Price, and Xavier Russell edit the piece. Jerry Lane was on music. Ella Zhu was co-producing. Jing Lucy is the narrator, right? And we see like as contributors Cheng Lang, Fu Zhon, Zhu Jingsong, Hu Mingtak, Jiang Wazano, Lan Dashing, Li Deshing, Li Jingshang, Lu Yit Kung, Ma Yu, Yang Jiao, and Zhu Shong. Right? Yeah, I will destroy these names, unfortunately, you know. But yeah, that's that's the information I've been able to get. Right now, it's about this 50 years after the Terracotta Warriors were discovered. This documentary unearths new secrets from China's first emperor's mausoleum and its 8,000 pottery soldier guards. Yeah, right. So yeah, it's heralded as one of the greatest archaeological finds of the 20th century, right? Because these were created from China's first emperor, the dude that took all the territories, conquered them all, and came up with the name China, right? Qin Shi Huang, right? And it was his, thing to create this mausoleum, right? For when he died, that supposedly the size of Manhattan. That's what we learn, right? And so he built these warriors, 8,000 warriors. Now, it's never explained how they realized it's 8,000, you know? We, yeah, because they haven't, right? From all of these, they've only put together 1,200, right? Which, don't get me wrong, that's a feat in itself, right? Because they didn't find any of these intact. They were all smashed. They were all broken up, right? Which, as a kid, I had no clue, right? We see these warriors standing stoically, had no clue that when they were actually discovered, they were broken, right? Which is whoa, right? And the other thing, uh, they were painted originally when they were first created. They were painted because they found one that was like buried underneath everything that still had paint on it, which is just like, what? Yeah. These things were painted. So this documentary, like, gives us all this new information, which is fascinating, right? Fascinating. Like they were broken up. They've found that they were burned, right? And now they're saying a fire that was so hot it melted like an iron cauldron. Fire that hot, it melted a cauldron, which that is interesting in itself. Now, one big thing is, right, this documentary, it gives us all of this information and it tells us that there's no record of these warriors, right? There's no record. Like the tomb, the mausoleum, all of this was discovered by accident. Farmers were digging a well and they came across some stuff. And so they called in these experts, which is kind of crazy because you just think if this happened in some other places, are people calling in, like being like, oh, we think we've had, or are they just being like, ah, fuck it, I want to build this well? You know what I mean? So the fact that these people called experts in is like miraculous. But yeah, so they call these people in and they've been excavating, right, and discovering things. And there's still, I think it was something like they've only unearthed an eighth of what is there, right? So there's still so much to be found. They haven't actually opened up the emperor's tomb yet. You know what I mean? They haven't found that, right? All the information and knowledge they have around Qin Shi Huang is from this one text, right? This one book has given, right? Which is interesting because is it correct? Right? And supposedly the way it's written, it's kind of history, but it's kind of fictional as well, right? So is any of this made up? And like, how much can we trust it? Right? So it's this crazy kind of thing. And so we get this documentary that is facts, right? We hear from historians and these restoration people, but also we get reenactments, right? So there's bits where they'll be like, oh, and so when Queen Shi Huang died, there was dissension and rebellion. So they play out all of this stuff, and it's just like it's interesting, it's good, but did it really happen, or did it really happen like that? You know what I mean? That's what we don't actually know, right? As they found this tomb of a mysterious warrior that's at the foot of the mausoleum, right? And so then they give us their viewpoint of who this must be, right? And again, interesting. We see the reenactment, but is it true? A lot of it is conjecture. But then they're talking about how they're putting this stuff together and the meticulous effort going into all of this. And it's just like, this is insane. This is like Lego, right? And it's taking them all this time to do this. Like there's this one guy we hear from, and he was a young man, right? This has been his life's work. He's been working on this all his life, right? It's crazy. But we don't know. This is something they didn't really tell us, right? How much is actual terracotta from the time? Is any of it stuff they've recreated, right? Because they're like, we can clearly see that a bit needs to go here, but nothing. It's all shards. We can't reconstruct that. So let's just make a bit to fit that, right? Is any that? You know what I mean? We don't know. They didn't tell us this stuff. So it's fascinating, but there's so many more questions I have after watching it. You know what I mean? Because there's so little information. When they're carbon dating the bones, doing DNA tests and all of this, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But what's the foundation you're going from? What's the base of this? Right? How have you got to some of your conclusions? Right? There was this gulf of knowledge that we don't know. Right? So it's fun. It's a fun watch. It's just under an hour and 20 minutes. So it's not crazy long or anything like that. The production level is crazy. It's really good. And yeah, it's a lot of it is subtitled. But luckily, and I don't know how much of this is my actual settings on Netflix, but they were big ass subtitles, a nice, bold, solid background behind. So it was easier to watch. Luckily, it's not, they weren't crazy fast talking or anything like that. So it took, longer than, something normally takes, but it wasn't as much of a chore as some things can be. So I applaud the production of this. It's fascinating as hell. They're saying that they call the Terracotta Army the eighth wonder of the world, right? And you can see why, right? Oh, another fun fact that we learned: it's not just these warriors. Right? There was terracotta slaves and terracotta harem and just all of this. So it's just, yeah, just so much stuff that I did not know. Right. And I love that. I love that. But yeah, so much more that I want to know, which not a bad thing, because really, after any documentary, when we're not getting everything, right? There's always more that you need to know. You need to find out. You should research. So this is like, man, this is some gateway drug, right? This has got me back into the terracotta shit. You know what I mean? I loved it as a kid. I watched stuff as an adult, but you know, I've been floating around, but this has got me like, yo, I need to get back into this shit. I need to learn. I need to find out if Dan Carlin has done a podcast on this. I hope he has. Dan Carlin's podcasts are incredible. So I hope Dan Carlin has done an episode on this. And if he has, I've got it because I bought. Well, I mean, last year or something, I bought all these podcasts, right? So if there's one, I need to go look and find it, right? But yeah, it's fascinating. It is fascinating. I can't wait to dive deeper into this. If you are a fan, right? If you're intrigued by Chinese history, yeah, I feel this is something you want to check out. Mysteries of the Terracotta Warrior. It's on Netflix right now. Go immerse yourself, people. Go immerse yourself.